Thunderhill is a ranch in Northern California. It's located in the foothills just west of a town called Willows. This is farm country.
Yes, it is, Annalise. And it's been farm country for many generations. It looks just about the same today as it did 50 years ago. Things change slowly in the country. That's just the way folks around here like it. You know, Annalise, a kid growing up around here in the 1950s had a pretty good life. Good chance you learned to drive on a single-seat, open-wheeled machine, probably painted green with yellow wheels. Okay, so it wasn't a Lotus. Actually, the only race cars you saw were on the dirt tracks at the fairgrounds. Road racing was virtually unknown in this area. But you didn't need a driver's license to run on your own property. When your dad said you were old enough, that was it. A few years ago, the Sports Car Club of America was negotiating with a gentleman named Thor Odin to buy a...
Wait a minute. Is his name really Thor Odin?
Yes, it is, Annalise. And you know your Norse mythology. Mr. Thor Odin's property is the Thunderhill Ranch.
In springtime, the wildflowers are so beautiful. It reminds me of Norway, where I grew up.
No, it's not Norway. You're in Thunderhill Park. This property used to be part of the Thunderhill Ranch. A few years ago it was sold, and now it's one of the most interesting racetracks in the country. The San Francisco region of the Sports Car Club of America have been looking for a place to build a racetrack for some years. The search finally ended at Thunderhill. The chief executive officer of Thunderhill Park is a real veteran of racetrack management, David Vauden.
There was a ranch, which was the Thunderhill Ranch, and that was the name of the ranch. The owner is a guy named Thor Odin. So we actually approached him and offered to buy a portion of his ranch, and that turned out to be a win-win scenario. He was happy, we called, and we were happy, and so we bought 550 acres of his ranch.
The deal was done. There's going to be a new racetrack at Thunderhill. The good news spread fast.
All the clubs in Northern California saw the value of this racetrack and saw their future tied to this racetrack, and they stepped up in a big way. In most cases, Shelby Club, particularly Shelby Club, because of the money. CSRG did as well, and you know, and many of these people are in many different clubs, so in many cases it was the same people in different organizations. And I think that when we look at this track and we say it's San Francisco region built it, really all the clubs built it, and that's one of the nice things about it. That makes it unique.
The story of Thunderhill began after World War II. European sports cars had arrived. Many did double duty as a road car during the week and a race car on the weekend. For many enthusiasts, these were the best of times. Hay bales meant road racing. The sport was growing fast. These cars were an absolute sensation. They were called sports cars, usually open two-seaters with fenders and headlights. They were often licensed for road use. Jaguar's magnificent C-Type can be driven on the open road. Built in the early 1950s, this car will turn heads even today. It looks fast, and it is, with a top speed of 150 miles an hour. Aston Martin race car. Race car preparation was comparatively low-key. Change the spark plugs, tape the headlights, drop the windshield, and let's go racing. Racetracks were quickly constructed or dismantled. They used existing roads in public parks or airport runways. Turns were lined only with hay bales. Crowd control consisted of little more than a temporary rope or snow fencing. Spectators were requested not to cross the track during a race. Road racing was terrific from the spectator point of view. Pick a spot at the side of the road and watch the cars from close up. By the mid-1950s, public pressure was making it difficult to close roads or parks. Airport courses were a suitable alternative. Existing access roads and taxiways provided a variety of turns. Airport circuits were ideal for this type of racing. The long straightaways easily accommodated the high speeds these cars could obtain. Fast, flat, and relatively safe, airport circuits often offer the spectator another feature. From time to time, the cars would be flagged off the track. For the price of your admission, you got not only the road race, but you got an air show. Individual races were planned around aircraft schedules. By moving a few pylons, the temporary race course could be converted back to aircraft runways and taxi strips. It was great while it lasted, but by the decade of the 1960s, higher speeds and larger crowds were real concern. Liability insurance coverage and increasing population density were making many circuits obsolete. Local airfields were giving way to shopping malls. Recognizing the problem, the San Francisco region of the Sports Car Club of America created a special committee. Its job was to locate land suitable for a racing facility in Northern California. If amateur racing were to survive, something had to be done. Most of the tracks that served the early days of amateur road racing are gone. This vacant land used to be the Vacaville track. It's hard to believe they used to race cars here. The search to find a suitable site for a permanent racetrack went on for years, without success. Then it all came together at a location about 2.5-hour drive north from the San Francisco Bay Area, at a town called Willows. The track at Thunderhill was built largely due to the efforts of one man, Dick Mudd. Dick Mudd is a real race car fan and took a special interest in the project. He was also a member of the Glenn County Board of Supervisors.
I don't think it's any secret that I've been a race fan for pretty near forever. You know, it's obvious I didn't do this by myself. That's not possible. And nor would I imply that whatsoever. We had a planning director, Mr. John Benoit, as a matter of fact, that is a race fan also. Mm-hmm. He was, you know, totally in favor of this, and had other people in the community at the particular time that we were putting this into effect or to go forward with it. The Board of Supervisors itself, the 5 of us that sit on the board, we're all in agreement that should take place.
Dick Mudd was the right man at the right time. Since they had so far been unsuccessful in closing a deal, the racetrack search group decided to change tactics prior to meeting with the Glenn County Board of Supervisors. David Vauden recalls the strategy.
Before we would go look for land. In fact, one of the things that the club did as a volunteer organization the most was they all went out looking for land. And that wasn't a problem. But we didn't do that in Glenn County. We went to Glenn County, sat down with this supervisor who I didn't know, Dick Mudd, and said to him, okay, you know, instead of us finding a piece of land and marching into your planning department and saying we want to build a racetrack on this land, why don't you tell us where in this county you think a racetrack would fit within the general plan or within the concept of what this county is now and wants to become? And I'll be doggone, I think he was waiting for the question.
I think the club was looking for an area that had different elevation changes and hills, as I'll put it, involved, and so that was kind of the focus, if I might say, and of course the property just happened to come up for sale at pretty much the right time, and I was aware of that and able to, you know, aim them in that direction.
Thunderhill Park became a reality in 1993. The efforts of Supervisor Dick Mudd and County Planning Director John Benoit smoothed the bureaucratic process. The hard work of so many had paid off at last. Soon after it opened, Thunderhill was attracting attention. Rare vintage sports cars appeared in the paddock on race days. It was an enthusiast's delight. Ran for their cameras when this historic Maserati showed up.
Heads up, coming through.
It's the Whitney Straight Maserati, named after its original owner. The stylized W was his emblem.
Wonders of the world to be out here running. All right, perfect.
Give it a shot of Ethan.
This Maserati, chassis number 3011, was part of Whitney Straight's Grand Prix effort in 1934. The season was successful. Records were set almost every time out. A few years later, the car was campaigned by Prince Bira, who was even faster than Whitney Straight had been. Think about it. Over 6 decades of motor racing history in this car. Welcome to Thunderhill. Maserati. Bob Cornish knows every major racetrack in this country. The former Formula V ace chose to locate his advanced driving school here at Thunderhill. Why?
Thunderhill is a very challenging track. I'd say I would rate it between, on a scale of 1 to 10, with a track like Road Atlanta being a 10, very high speed and very unforgiving if you make a mistake. Thunderhill is probably 7.5 to an 8 in terms of technical skill that it takes to drive the track.
Every major racetrack has some unique feature that gives it its reputation. Thunderhill is no exception. Turn 5's at the top of the hill. It's a tricky turn and demands a lot of respect. Bob Cornish describes the proper way around.
The trick here is to not turn while you're going over the top. So you want to try to do your braking on the far right and turn the car sharply while you're going uphill and headed towards the apex curbing on the left side of the track. This will essentially get the turn done before you go over the top of the hill.
This track is unique. Turn 3 is an off-camber, kind of downhill, depending on what direction you go, right turn. Then we have turn 5, the Cyclone, which is sort of a love-hate corner for people. It's really a decent corner. There's nothing wrong with turn 5. It's a corner on a racetrack, but you won't encounter it anywhere else. It's a turn you go up to, you do your braking and shifting, and you drive through the turn. You don't pass in turn 5, but that's not a problem. You don't have to pass in turn 5. You need to get in and get out of it.
Thunderhill ate me up yesterday, to be honest. I spun the car out several times, and I just quite couldn't get used to it.
My pressure might be up a little too high.
Well, we'll turn that down, Richard.
Good, you're on. Okay? Yeah.
Race cars used to have a very short life. When they were no longer competitive, they were scrapped. In recent years, vintage automobile racing has become popular. Painstaking, authentic restoration has brought many cars back to life which would otherwise have disappeared. With their competitive careers behind them, these cars are now run simply for the fun of it. Neglected cars tend to deteriorate badly. Steve Darrell knew he had a major project here.
It was white with polka dots at the time and in bad shape and in need of repair. And we probably have 150 hours between fixing all the cracks that were here originally, because this fiberglass, I guess, is 20 years old or so. And it looked like a road map when we got it.
Restoration Restoration is always a painstaking and difficult operation. Usually, every effort is made to return the car to its original condition. Mechanically, this car is flawless. Steve's wife, Sandra, had her own ideas about the color, however. It all started out with the driving suit.
Steve and I saw the suit, and I had to have the suit, so the car came next, and then the car had to match the suit. So that's where we got the flames and the color scheme. It was to match the suit.
So anyway, the whole story is we bought the suit first, and then we bought the trailer, and then we bought the car, and kind of put it all together and made it all match. And here we are. This is my second race of '97.
This car here was built in Britain in 1966. It was built by a gentleman called Derek Walker. He's famous in his own right over there for building clubman cars.
This is Lady Bird. She too had fallen onto hard times and was finally discovered in a most unlikely place.
Stored in a greenhouse, which of course is the worst place you could store a car. And
Bob Yarwood is Lady Bird's owner. He shared the restoration with the car's designer, Derek Walker.
he restored the body on the car, and I restored the engine and gearbox. And here we are. I'm racing it in the States, and I just love it to death. I really do. It's just totally the way it was years ago. It was an honest restoration. Very lightweight, made of tissue paper aluminium, weighs 900 pounds without me in it. As I say, it's a clubman's car, which was a low-cost motorsport group in Britain, still going today, very, very strong. This particular car was very innovative. It has a 1500 Cortina motor, modified. It develops about 140 horsepower. The engine is placed in the car at a strange angle, both laterally and sideways. It's tilted to one side, and it's put into the car at an angle as well. And this is to get the engine back as far as possible for the weight distribution in the car. There's not too much room for me. It was built by a person who was 160 pounds and 5'10", and I'm 6'2" and weigh 210, so I can't drive the car with a seat, so it's really quite uncomfortable to do that, but I enjoy the car so much I put up with the pain. It's just a kick to drive, and because it's so small and so ugly, people don't look at it too much, but when it goes on the track it looks really good and goes quite well. I don't think I can drive it to its potential, but I try.
Classic Sports Racing Group. The name pretty well says it all. These are people who love old sports and racing cars. By banding together, they're able to obtain access to racetracks and run the cars as they were meant to be run. Fast. Very fast. In CSRG events, cars are grouped according to performance potential. Many of these cars are faster now than they were in their heyday. Cars running in CSRG events are absolutely authentic. Higher speeds are not due to modifications, but largely attributable to improvements in tire compounds and mechanical components. There was a great turnout for the spring event at Thunderhill. They ran 5 groups. Don't worry about finding a winner. CSRG events are not scored. Enjoy the cars. That's what it's about. Beginning with the 1963 season, the Sports Car Club of America sanctioned professional road racing for the first time. The new series was known as the United States Road Racing Championship. Cars competed in both sports racing and GT categories. A sports racer of this era is not for the faint-hearted. It was dramatically faster than anything that preceded it. Mid-engined, featherweight designs gave power-to-weight ratios very similar to the Formula car equivalent. These cars were lightning fast, even by our standards, more than a quarter of a century later. Sports racing cars shared the grid with GT cars, big-name drivers in the best equipment money could buy. Race fans never had it so good. That was then, and this is Thunderhill, the Seniors Tour.
Hi, Shirley, here's somebody you can see.
The Seniors Tour is a celebration of the past excitement of the United States Road Racing Series. Today, this event shares the program at Thunderhill with the CSRG. The tour is organized by Victory Lane Motorsports Marketing in association with Victory Lane Magazine. Many of the cars participating in the CSRG event are also eligible for the Seniors Tour. The winner of the over 2-liter sports racing class adds his name to the checkered flag. This is a racing event. Prizes will be awarded.
won the first place for the Sports Racer Over. Congratulations. It's so nice to see him back out here.
Thunderhill also hosted the Pinewood Derby that weekend. The Willows area scouts take their racing seriously.
You know what it takes to be a good sport? Yeah. What is it? No crying. Okay? Being not only a good winner, but also a good loser, okay?
Okay, gentlemen, start your engine.
Here we go.
At least one of the drivers here this weekend wears a Pinewood Derby patch on his driving suit. The driving suit belongs to Jerry Burr. Jerry drives in a different class these days. No, it's not a Lotus 7. This is a Westfield. You might want to ask Bob Yarwood about the similarity. It's an interesting story. Bob imports the basic car from England and completes the job at his shop in Oregon. Each car is hand-built and can be customized to the individual order.
They're a low volume. They make, the company in Britain, Westfield, make about between 500 and 600 cars a year. It's like having the Pass today. You can have the Pass by having one of these cars right now, brand new. And it's like a big retro deal which is going on at the moment. People like to have old things. And so that's where we are with these cars. It's just fitting in a niche very nicely. And of course, working with the Vintage Racing and working with Victory Lane magazine, we believe we're targeting the right market.
The Westfield was derived from the Lotus 7. The separation took place years ago, and it's now a bona fide sports car in its own right. No, it's not a Lotus, it's a Westfield.
Here's the big question. How do the people of Willows feel about a racetrack in their own backyard?
That's a good question, Annalise. Noise has been a real problem for many tracks. Thunderhill's located about 6.5 miles out of town, though. The nearest neighbors don't seem like the type to cause problems. In fact, they're usually right here for each event.
Supervisor Dick Mudd lives near here. What did he think?
Most of the people in the area are all farm people, and as I am. You know, we spent our life working and didn't have time to chase all over the world to watch all these things. You could watch it on TV if you were so interested, but there's a lot of the folks in the area that hadn't even been exposed to racing.
In addition to the noise problem, racetracks attract crowds. What sort of people would be drawn to Willows by Thunderhill? The Sports Car Club of America was under scrutiny. David Vauden was ready for this attention.
Dick Mudd came to our races. He visited with us at the pits. He went up to people. We had people set up to get to talk to Dick Mudd, and he's no dummy. He went to people that we didn't have set up to talk to him. But you know what? The people that represent road racing in all facets, in my opinion, are quality people. So it didn't matter. We didn't have to pick people. He picked his own, and when he was done checking us out, we passed. Not only did we passed with flying colors.
That's true. Visited their races, looked at their operation, see what kind of people they were, how they conducted themselves, seeing that they weren't a bunch of misfits. Every other thing that could happen, that wasn't true. So I didn't have a hard time selling that picture.
Well, you'll see a race later on today.
Sports cars were dual-purpose vehicles. Many of these machines were fully licensed road vehicles which could be driven to race events on weekends. Tape the headlights and add numbers. It became a race car. Club racing had arrived at Thunderhill.
Bottom line is that when all of this was done, the county decision makers, the planning processors, everyone was behind the project. And that made it go fast. And that, more than anything else, is why we ended up in Glenn County, because the county facilitated our development and others made it very much impossible for us to do it. So we found a home.
It's been a long road to Thunderhill. The hay bale line race courses are gone. Many of the cars that raced on them now run in historic events with groups like the CSRG. Thunderhill meant some real changes for people in the Willows area. If they had it to do over again, would they support the track? Dick Mudd had the answer.
When's the next race going to be?